Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. We've got over 1,100 audios now of the old school stuff, new school stuff, all sorts of good stuff for you to check out. And without a doubt, that is a valuable thing. And at the end of the day, we will look at as many Wrestling Challenge episodes and old school episodes as we can. This one is Wrestling Challenge from the 9/27/92, probably the single most impactful day of my life. And I know that sounds extreme. I know lots of people will say, how can this be so? But the reality of that situation is, this is the night that I went to a house show and met Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, Big Boss Man, Crush, Paul Bearer. Scott Hall was kind enough at that time to say to 12-year-old me, I said, I just want to be like you someday. It was a very heartwarming thing, goofy kid, but being wheelchair bound and saying something like that, I just want to be part of the wrestling business. I just want to do something in this. He hugged me and he said, you can do anything you put your mind to. I believe that you'll find a way to be in this business even if you don't wrestle. And for a kid who came from an abusive environment, that was the most impactful thing, that ever took place. By the time I got to high school, I had changed my name to Scott. Everybody knew me as Scott, and I've gone by Scott since I was 14 years old, 15 years old, and I'm almost 40. So the impact of that night not lost on me by a long shot. Anyway, we go into the wrestling challenge for that day. Natural Disasters, former tag team champions at this point. They're in an enhancement match here. They're still going at it with Money Incorporated around the block here. And actually, interesting. I mean, they do some really basic stuff. Nothing terribly major. But they actually take a couple of bumps for enhancement talent. Does Earthquake, which is just really bizarre to me that in 1992 guys were taking bumps. Typhoon hits a couple of body slams, hits a big splash, and but to see Earthquake leave his feet before coming in to hit that Earthquake splash, just a really interesting thing. We then go to a interview with Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. They basically bond over a friendship of beating each other up at SummerSlam. I know that's a really condensed way to look at the interview, but that's basically the undertone of what happened. They form what amounts to forming the Ultimate Maniacs here, and ultimately they managed to kind of go that way for a little bit. And while they don't call it the Ultimate Maniacs, that is kind of the beginning of the build for the Survivor Series deal. Of course, Survivor Series that year being, right there, a couple of weeks, less than a week away at that point, something like that. Or, no, less than 2 months away. Anyway, in any event, it's a huge thing and kind of a big deal there. So the Mountie is up next, and he's facing off against the enhancement talent. Mountie, of course, former Intercontinental Champion by this point, only for a couple of days. Mountie manages to hit a couple drop kicks, do some basic stuff. I actually listened to an interview, a shoot interview with Jacques Rougeau not too long ago. Really an impressive thing. He's gone for a little bit after the Mountie thing. They do the Quebecers because they're court ordered not to use the Mountie name anymore. Then we go and we see Nails cut a promo after a very one-sided squash match. I mean, Nails never really had, outside of brawling technique, punch, kick, choke, whatever have you, he never had any major overt talents. Tony DeVito, who later becomes part of ECW and the Baldies, is his adversary. Basically, he being Nails, Styles threatens the Big Boss Man. Then we go to a vignette with Bob Backlund. Backlund is coming back into the WWF at about 42, 43 years old. Had the chance, just barely missed working with his daughter, although did meet her one time, now that I look back at it, where I used to work. And anyway, Backlund coming back at 42, 43. I don't know if the thought was that doing these hype promos would, kind of give the Rocky comeback story, or whether the plan all along was to turn him heel. Because, I mean, he just did not get over with that audience at all upon returning. And that's really weird for a 6 year, 5.5, 6 year champion to not get over, but it happens. And never got the chance to meet Bob. Would have loved to have met Bob. Bob always kind of intrigued me. And anyway, we go off to the another enhancement match. Barry Hardy, part of that. Max Moon is his opponent. Max Moon with a jetpack does some step over arm drags and deep arm drags and all of that. Doesn't get everything he wants to, but manages to get what he can. They kind of do the fireworks, and I think they were trying to do a lucha infusion. I mean, a lot of rolling, a lot of tumbling by Max Moon. Of course, he picks up the enhancement victory here, but that's a pretty major thing. Then we see Kamala out there. They do a video highlight of Kamala being scared at SummerSlam of the Undertaker, and they kind of continue the fear. Undertaker at this point still finding his roots as a babyface. Only been a babyface since about the end of or middle of April of this year. So 6 months into babyface run. Undertaker hits lots of punches and kicks on the enhancement talent of his day. Hits a short clothesline. Undertaker. My favorite part of the Undertaker, honestly, was the end of 1990 till about 94-ish. I did actually like when they brought him back with the American Badass character and all of that, but there were times when the Undertaker just did nothing for me. Obviously, I did like his evolution into the Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Edge matches in later years, but 30 years, a long time to do anything. Chokeslam by the Undertaker, Paul Bearer on the outside. Really odd story is I worked with Paul on a couple of shows years after meeting him, where he was super supportive of me following my dream to get into wrestling, even if it was just as a broadcaster and backstage personnel type of person. But this is a really cool thing. Paul was, of course, Bill Moody. Bill was by far one of the most genuine and real people that I ever had the chance to run across in the business. Big flying clothesline, and then the tombstone, and obviously Undertaker gets a victory. No big surprise there. Razor Ramon up next, and he is hyping, taking out Randy Savage, doing damage to Savage's knee, also kind of promoting the continuation of Ric Flair getting the belt back. I actually think there may have been, this is right around the time of all of that coming to fruition. Shawn Michaels, as a heel, he's been a heel at this point for since January, finally coming into his own in that role. I think he came into his own that summer. Enhancement talent hits him a couple times. Sherry's still out there with him. I think they could have done more with him and Sherry, to be completely honest. I think Sherry added a lot to his character act. And anyway, we see the spinning neck breaker by Michaels along the way there. And then Sherry, of course, on the outside. Not very impressed. Shawn basically hinting that he wants the Intercontinental title, which he would get at the end of October. Hits drop kick on the enhancement talent. Beautiful move there. And obviously Shawn Michaels looks like $1 million. He has not switched to the super kick here. Does a hanging suplex. He actually still is doing the back suplex there. And then they do some hype for the upcoming week's program, and we close there. we'll be back with more. I got 2 or 3 more of these I want to record today. Plus, we will have. We will have the as I was looking at my sound recorder here. We will have AEW Dark and Impact tonight, but probably about 4 or 5 uploads in total, if not a little more, depending on what my overnight looks like. But anyway, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.